Thank you so much for joining me. I am Catherine McDowell-Baker here to speak with you today on Family Matters. Today is April the 22nd, 2024, and I am just uber excited that you're here, but I'm also excited about what God is doing. Of course, here we talk about families, we talk about different situations that can happen in families, but today I want to be a little more personable with you. Many of you may have seen on this past week a few posts from me. Some of those posts may have to do with our mission that's scheduled to take place in October to Uganda. But the one that I want to talk about today is the publishing of my book. And I want to share this because I truly believe, I honestly believe that it will be a blessing to many. For years, I have written for years. I have so many spiral notebooks full of thoughts and ideas that come to my head. And my dad taught me, the late Bishop Charles O. McDowell, taught me years ago that when something comes to your mind, be prepared to write that thought down. As I've grown in Christ and as I've come to know the incomparable Bishop Michael A. Blue, he says it this way: God is not obligated to repeat himself. That really blesses me. Just because you hear something today, um, don't think that you have a whole lot of time before you make good on it, or you write it down, or you do what you can to solidify it in your memory, simply because the enemy always looks to steal what God is doing. And if he gives you a thought, if he gives you an idea, um, don't wait until you see the entire picture before you act on it. Act on what little bit that you have. There was a parable that my dad used to talk about, and many of you may have heard this before from other people, even. But my dad used to talk about this little boy who they lived out in the country, and it was really really dark in the country, and his dad was sending him to the barn late at night for something. And the little boy went and stood on the porch and said, I can't see the barn. His dad told him to go to the barn, but it was so dark he couldn't see the barn. And so his dad had given him a lantern, and his dad told him to hold up the lantern. When he held up the lantern, his dad said, now what do you see? He said, I see the porch, or I see the steps on the porch. He said, well, go down the steps. And so he went down the steps. He said, now hold your light up again. What do you see? He said, I see the fence. He said, go to the fence. Um, then he said, hold up your light. Now, what do you see? So I'm sure you understand where I'm going with this. The little boy kept holding up his light until he was able to see and enter the barn. In other words, he held up his light and he went as far as he could see. And that's what I had to do when publishing this book. God would give me ideas. Um, I would talk to people and be able to share with them things that to them was a big deal. To me, um, I was thinking I really didn't have that much to say. I was really thinking that it really wasn't that big of a deal until it just came to me one day, the different number of people that I had spoken to. And of course, my husband and I live close to a military installation. My husband was active duty for 24 years. He did two tours of duty in Iraq during the war. I bless God because he was actually blown out of a vehicle while he was over in Iraq. But God blessed, and he kept his limbs, he kept his sanity, even after seeing his soldiers. Um, a lot of them got killed there. And so this book, because we live close to a military installation and I was driving rideshare at the time, I was able to come in contact and not just trust and believe that my steps are ordered by the Lord. And so I don't think any of this was happenstance. I think it was all divine providence. I really do. I really think that it was God ordained that I came into contact with so many soldiers, both male and female, who would talk to me about marriage and their marriages. And sometimes we have to understand, you think to yourself, well, why would they talk to somebody they don't know? A lot of times it's a lot easier to to share with someone who you don't know because they don't really have a dog in the fight. So in your mind, you're thinking, well, I don't have to worry about them telling my business. They don't know my parents, or they don't know my wife, or they don't know my husband, or they don't know my situation. They don't know me personally. And so sometimes actually the not knowing, I guess that is why that people find it easier to go to psychiatrists and psychologists, because they don't know those people. And so they can say what they have to say and leave it there and glean from that person's feedback and understand that it's an impartial feedback, that they don't know the person or persons or situations that you may be discussing with them. And so they can see from a more clear perspective, and be able to speak into your life and speak into your situation. And so I had a lot of times when I came away and thought about it, I realized how many people that God had allowed me to bless with um, information about how my husband and I stayed married for now 37 years. It wasn't 37 at that time, but how, especially being a military family, how we maintained and how we went through and how we, did what we did. We can trust and believe that it was all God. Let's say that right off the bat. It was all God. It's not because we did anything that was so spectacular or anything like that. But we knew God. We knew him as our personal, we knew Jesus as our personal savior, and we knew God as our father and our creator. And so that was our foundation. And so I was put in a situation where I was able to bless other people by just the small details. Because as you can imagine, when you're driving rideshare, a lot of the times the rides are very short distances. There weren't enough distances for me to pour totally into them. And many of them would say to me, "You should write a book." Well, what they didn't know was it was something that I had already began to do years and years prior to that, but just not had not taken the time. I had looked into publishing companies and things like that, but I hadn't moved any further with that simply because um, I didn't have that kind of confidence in myself and what I had to say. And that part of me is actually coming in another book that is soon to come, that is forthcoming, but I didn't have that confidence. And actually, the publishing of this particular book that is now available on both Amazon and Walmart, along with some other thrift bookstores and things like that. Um, this book was, for me, a sock in the eye to Satan. It was actually personal to me in that I was letting Satan know that you have for years, I have allowed you for years to speak negativity in my life. My inner dialogue had become so self loathing that I didn't think I had what it took to publish a book, or I didn't think I had anything of value to say. And so this book was actually a sock in the eye from my standpoint of view to Satan, to let him know, I'm not afraid. I'm going to do this. And I understand that when you're publishing books and you're doing anything that's in the view of the public, you open yourself up for ridicule and persecution and all such things as that. But it's okay because I know why I did it. The book is not a very long book or a very large book. That was even an issue. You guys got to understand the publishing of this book. The book was actually published in 2020. I went live in 2020. So some of you already have the book. But to see it now available, that Walmart picked my book up, and that blesses me, and that other bookstores have picked up my book and thought it was worth publishing through their personal websites. So that is a blessing to me. But this book um, came through a lot of hard work, a lot of back and forth, a lot of should I, shouldn't I, and so it is not a very long book, and that's what the enemy tried to tell me. Well, that's not just a book. That's, it's real small, and but that's beyond the point. The point is, it doesn't take a long time to say what you have to say. And so in this book can really be read in one sitting, actually. It really can. The name of the book is Real Detachment: The Mission of Marriage in the Military. And honestly, I've been told by those who have read the book, who are not associated with the military. They've said to me that although I am not military, although my marriage is not a military marriage, that book held something in it for me. So I believe from that response, from those responses, that it also will hold something for you as well. Again, the book is Real Detachment, The Mission of Marriage and the Military. And basically, the book just gives my personal experiences with how we went through, um, how we made it as a military family. We talked about the sanctity of marriage and how to renew our minds, and explaining what rear detachment is as far as it concerns the military and why that terminology was used. And so it is a good book. It really is. Actually, when I read it myself, when I reread it again, I'm like, did I really write that? Did I really write that? And so I'm coming on today just to encourage you that whatever it is that you may have on the inside of you, sometimes it takes a moment to revisit what our passions were. When we first start out, when we're getting a little bit older and we get to the point where we realize, okay, well, now it's time for to make a decision about my future, what I want to do. A lot of times that thing that we're passionate about may not be that thing that people see that brings in a lot of money, and our first priority becomes to be able to provide for ourselves. And so a lot of times we will put what is passionate to us on the back burner because we just want to make it from day to day. Bishop Michael Blue said it this way in one of his conversations. He said, "Don't die on a job." What he was saying, how I interpreted what he was saying was, if you're not doing what it is that you're passionate about, don't die that way. Don't die just going to work on a job and you're not passionate about that job. You're not passionate about that position. You're not passionate about that work. He says, don't die on a job. And I like that. I really do. I like that. That does not mean run out and quit your jobs. Please don't do that. It doesn't mean that. But for me, it meant revisit those passions. Revisit those passions. Revisit those things that really make you happy, that really make you feel that you have something to offer. And then don't allow the enemy to tell you that you don't have anything, because you were created with a purpose. Your purpose is already inside of you. You just have to work to bring it out. But I promise you, it's in there. I've been writing and enjoying writing since I was a very small child. My sister Angela and we've always been very imaginative, and along and that's a part of a book that I'm writing as well. But we've always been very imaginative, and so even beyond playing and things like that, I was a person who liked to write. I loved to write. Writing for me not only allows me a platform to express what is really going on in my life, but it also gives me a platform to use my imagination. And writing causes me to have to expand my vocabulary even. And so there's just so much in it that I love. But I've been writing a long time, and I had an elementary school teacher, many of them who really, really, really encouraged me, but one who I look back on now and see how she so subtly encouraged me because she saw something in me that I hadn't seen in myself. Her name was Mrs. Joyce Kennedy. Miss Joyce Kennedy taught at Orem Middle High School at that time. When I was there in Robinson County, North Carolina. Her name is Mrs. Joyce Kennedy, and she was my English teacher. And the way she helped us to learn our spelling words were we had to take those spelling words and we had to use those spelling words to write a story every week. As a child, as you're not really understanding what that's all about, but hey, I was going to do what the teacher told me to do. And on many occasions, after she would give us our papers to let us know our grades, she would come back to me and ask me if she could keep mine. I will never forget that. And I wasn't thinking anything about it. I was like, yes, ma'am. Because it wasn't It wasn't a big deal to me. But she saw something in me. And so now I look back at that and I'm just so thankful for her in my life. I'm thankful for so many people that poured into me. And like I said, there are so many other books, you guys, that are coming. So you will see me post the other books once they are published. It's not a quick thing for me. There are some people that maybe can sit down and just jot out a book. I'm not that person. I really want to know that I'm giving it my all and I'm giving it my best. I'm not in a hurry to publish. I'm simply, um, I have something that I want to say, something that I think is valuable to say. So I'm currently working on several other books right now. And so please keep an eye out for those because they will be published as well. And they will be published to Amazon, and other companies, other bookstores or whatever may pick those up as well. I pray that they do. But I just wanted to come on today and speak a little bit about this book, Real Detachment, The Mission of Marriage in the Military, that can now be found on both Amazon and Walmart.com. And I want to encourage you, do not stop. I don't care what your age is. Do not stop. Revisit those passions. And then just take one step at a time to see how to manifest those passions in your life at this stage in your life. At this stage in your life, I trust and I believe that there is still something left in you. God bless you. And I pray that you have enjoyed this video. And I pray that if you have not gotten the book, that you will go to one of those outlets and make your own purchase just to have. I really want you to read it, but just do it because it was me. And also, I have books here at the house. I am now about to set up in our local post exchange on the military base. This is how good God is. I'm about to set up there to be able to sell my books directly to those who will understand what rear detachment is and how challenging raising a family in the military can be. So I'm about to do that as well, but I do have a few copies here. If you would like one of those copies, inbox me, give me a private inbox message, and I will tell you how you can get one of those, and I'll even take the time to autograph it for you. My husband is so he is so I am looking for something to show you guys. Where did I put it? But my husband is such a um, he's such a support. He is such a supportive person, and I've moved it. I think I've moved it. He is such a supportive person that when I first published the book, he literally went out and bought me an ink pen just for here it is. I was getting ready to say I know I didn't misplace it, but he went out and brought me an ink pen solely for the purpose of autographing my books. How awesome is that? I just cried because I just thought that was so awesome. Isn't that nice? He got me this little pen so that I can use it solely for autographing books. So if you guys would like one of these books autographed with my special pen, be sure to inbox me behind the scenes and I'll tell you how you can get that. You all have a blessed day and know that I appreciate you. God bless.